Hello, everyone. So welcome to part 3 of the simple present tense. As I said in the previous video, in part 3, we are going to look at the simple present tense, verb sentence, yes, no question, meaning that we are going to form questions using the real verbs in the simple present tense. Now, these questions are yes-no questions. A yes-no question, as I have explained in the previous video, is a question that can be answered with yes or no, meaning that the first thing that the person says when they answer this question is with a yes or with a no. For example, a question like, are you happy? Okay. This question is a yes-no question because it can be answered with yes or a no. If someone says, are you happy? I can say, yes, I am happy. Or I can say, no, I am not happy. Or I can even just answer with yes or with a no. Meaning that if a person says, are you happy? I can just say no, or I can say yes. But in this case, as I said, right, we are dealing with verb sentences. Okay, we are dealing with verb sentences. Okay, meaning that we are not going to use are, but rather we are going to use do and does. For example, if someone says, do you play football every weekend? Okay, or if I say, does she play football every weekend? I can answer this question with yes, she does, or no, she doesn't. Okay, so that's what we are going to look at in this lesson. Let's not waste any time and get straight into it. So, the simple present tense verb sentence structure. Let's look at the structure first. As I said, it is the yes, no, question, verb sentence, meaning that we need to use a verb in our sentences, a real verb. So the structure is as follows. We first use the auxiliary verb, do or does. Then we put the subject. Of course, whether we use the auxiliary verb do or does is dependent on our subject. And after that, we use our verb in its infinitive original first form. So we do not change our verb at all. After that, we go to the object. And after the object, we put other words. Now, for he, she, and it, we use does. And for I, you, they, and you, we use do. Okay? So we use the auxiliary verb does for he, she, it, and we use the auxiliary verb do for I, you, they, and we. Okay? Now, let us keep in mind of the fact that if the sentence is a yes-no question, we do not add s, es, or ies at the end of the verb because the auxiliary verb does and do already meet the subject-verb agreement depending on the subject that we have. So it means that as long as we have used our auxiliary verb, we do not change our verb at all. Our verb remains in its original infinitive form. Okay? So we do not add es at the end. We do not add ies. And also, we do not add s. Because when we use an auxiliary verb, already the auxiliary verb tells us whether the subject is a he, a she, or an it. And also, if we use do, already that auxiliary verb tells us that the subject is an I, a you, a they, or a we. Okay? So let's move now to the exercises. Let's apply these rules and this structure. So in our exercise, we need to change the following sentences into the simple present tense, yes, no, question, verb sentences. So we need to change these sentences and make them yes, no, question sentences. Let's start with the first one. So gap or space, he kicked the ball very well. We need to make this sentence a yes, no question. It is a question sentence. Okay? How do we do that? We look at our subject. As you can see, the subject is he. If the subject is he, then it means that auxiliary verb that we should use to form our question has to be does. Like we said when we looked at the structure, that for he, she, and it, we use does. For I, you, they, and we use do. So in this case, it means we are going to use does. Okay? And we leave the verb in its original infinitive form as it is. Okay? So our yes, no question sentence then is, does he kick the ball very well? Does he kick the ball very well? Okay, let's move. The second one, space or cap, a baby cry over nothing sometimes. We've got the subject here, which is a baby. In the previous video, like we said, a baby could be a he or a she, right? So then it means the auxiliary verb that we have to use to form our question has to be does. So our sentence then becomes, does a baby cry over nothing sometimes? The verb, the real verb, cry, remains in its original infinitive first form. We do not do anything to it. Why? Because we have already done something to the auxiliary verb. So the original verb is do. We added the es, meaning that since we changed the first verb, the auxiliary verb, then we do not change the original verb at all. It remains in its first form, infinitive form, original form. I repeat this. It's very much important. Perfect. Let's move. Next sentence. Space, Mike play football every Monday. As we saw in the previous video, Mike, of course, can be regarded as the he. So again, we have to use does. So our sentence becomes, does Mike play football every Monday? Let's move right along. Next sentence. Space, I walk to work every morning. So in this case, we have the subject I. So the rule says for I, you, they, and we use do. So in this case, we are not going to use does, but rather we are going to use do. Why? Because our subject is I. So the sentence becomes, do I walk to work every morning? Let's keep going. Next sentence. Space, you sing with the choir on Sunday. In this sentence, the subject is you. And the rule says, for subjects, I, you, they, and we use do. So we have to use do. Then our full sentence becomes, do you sing with the choir on Sundays? Next up, space, they run together every morning. Okay, they run together every morning. But of course, it is a question sentence. So our subject is they. According to our rule, for subjects, I, you, they, and we use the auxiliary verb do to form our yes, no question. So it's, do they run together every morning? Next, space, Ken and Tom dance very well. So you've got the subjects here, Ken and Tom. As you saw in our previous video, right, that even though we have he and a he, but these people are doing the action together. So they are both the subject. So we take them as a collective, not as individual. So since it is the other people and we are not including ourselves in this action or in this sentence, so it means the subject here is they. So it's the same as they, Ken and Tom, they. And as you saw here, right, that they, we use the auxiliary verb do to form our yes, no question. So the sentence becomes, do Ken and Tom dance very well? Next up, space, Sylvia and I like rice and chicken. You've got Sylvia, it's a she, and then you've got I, in this case, I'm a he, okay? But Sylvia and I, they are both subjects. But then we take them as a collective because they are doing this action together. In this case, right, I have included myself, so it means the subject is we, right? Because I'm talking about someone else and myself. Then in this case means that the subject is we. If the subject is we, the rule says for subject I, you, they, and we use the auxiliary verb do to form the yes-no question. So the sentence becomes, do Sylvia and I like rice and chicken? Next up, space. We drink orange juice every day. The subject is we, as you saw in our last example before this one. For subjects, we use do. Therefore, the sentence becomes, do we drink orange juice every day? Right. So that's the end of simple present tense, yes, no, question, verb sentence. Remember, by verb sentence, I mean we use the actual real verbs. We do not use the verbs to be, but rather the verbs, the actual verbs. By actual verbs, I'm talking about verbs like sing, run, dance, like, drink, jump, speak, sit, and so on. And then verbs to be are, for example, am, is, are, of course, those first three in the present. But we will look at those later on. Right now, we are still focusing on the verb sentences, simple present tense. In this video, we did the yes, no question verb sentence, meaning these yes, no questions, right? They contain actual, real verbs and not verbs to be. Okay? Right. So that's all about the yes, no question, simple present tense, verb sentences. In the next video, I am going to explain to you, right, the simple present tense WH question. Okay? Meaning forming questions with WH. Please look out for that video. All right, everyone. So thank you so much for listening to today's lesson. I hope that you enjoyed it as much as I did, and I hope that you learned as much as possible. I hope to see you in the next video, which will be simple present tense part 4, where I explain the WH question verb sentences. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. Goodbye and take care.